So this month we are talking about this idea of freedom of thought, spirituality in action, freedom of thought, and that can be so what is freedom? Freedom means different things, but I want to give you a little glimpse, a little bit of freedom that I had last week because I wasn't here. Did y'all miss me?
Yeah.
I missed you too. For the past 2 weeks I hadn't been here, and last week I went down to Miami, and I'll talk more about this next week, but there was a vigil last week at the detention center down in Homestead for the immigrant children that are being held. 3,200 kids down in South Florida in that detention center. Hot, muggy, yucky. Anyway, as I said, I'll tell you more about that next week, but it was a very last minute trip, and I said yes, and I could do that. I had the freedom to do that because I have this amazing team here. I know that I can pick up the phone. I have friends I can call and say, can you speak for me? And someone said yes. And then I have this wonderful team that can just pick up the ball and run with it and do what needs to be done. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Because that hasn't always been possible. So we're now starting to have the community and the structure and the talent and the commitment that there's more freedom. So freedom isn't free, right? Yeah, we've put some structure and we put some framework to make that possible. So what is freedom? I think probably a good way to have that conversation to start it is to think about the ways that we're not free. Right? By the time this is over, I want you to maybe have some ideas or thoughts that you can do in your own life to have you feel more free. But let's talk about some of the ways where you might not be as free as you'd like to be, and maybe you hadn't even thought about it in this way. But what about your relationships? I hope that each and every one of you has at least one relationship that you can be in, one place where you feel like you can be your whole self. Right? Uncensored, unfiltered, love, joy, anger, all of it, like all of your humanity. Do you have at least one person, one place where you can be that? Think about that. For some of us, it's here. For some of us, that place opened up here. That happened here. I feel in some ways it happened for me, as I found this place back 15 years ago. How about your creative expression? There's a meme I saw, or a thing, it's supposed to be a Native American proverb or something, talking about all these people with anxiety and depression and all of these things. And the question is, when was the last time you danced? When was the last time you sang? When was the last time you played? When was the last time you just did something for the sheer fun of doing it? Right? How many of you have that in your life? Some form of creative expression, something that brings you joy, something where you can let your hair down. Again, and just be your authentic self. Ooh, this is mine. Anyone else have challenges with time and feeling not exactly free to be as far as time goes? Like always feeling like there's just not enough time to do everything that I want to do. This feels like a lifetime struggle for me. And it has felt like that up until now. Up until now. Just even this morning, I had this incredible divine download, I call it. When the idea just pops into your mind. And I've been thinking how much I just want my time freedom. And what do you know happened this week? I have absolute time freedom. Right? To do my schedule the way I choose to do it. Not to say I don't have things to do. I have lots of things to do. But my schedule has magically, as I have put this out to the universe, I want time freedom, is like, okay, here, you have a week to do what you want to do with it. You need to get this, and this done. And the structure is starting to, like the foundation for it, like how I'm going to actually do this. I'm super excited. I can't wait to tell you about it next week. So time, are you not free? Do you feel not free around time? Know that it can get better. This was a big one for me, right? To feel not free in your own physical self. Now, there are some of you who can't relate to that at all, right? There are some of you, I look at my husband who's always been, just this physical specimen of just like, it's perfect. He can eat whatever he wants. He looks great. He's got these fabulous legs, like he's never worried about the weight or the things. I mean, at one point I carried 100 extra pounds on my body. And I was definitely not free to be in my own skin. And there was a point where I had to get over that. Or I didn't have to. I chose to, because I wanted to live my best life. And to lose 100 pounds is not a quick thing. It's not an overnight, right? So there had to be a decision, a point where I said to myself, I'm not going to keep myself from living life. I'm not going to keep myself from enjoying my life because I'm afraid of what people think of me, or because I don't like what I see when I look in the mirror. I never would have been doing this. Never, ever. There had to be a point where I could get comfortable enough in my skin that I could stand up on stage and know that all those eyes are on me with that 100 extra pounds of weight. And it was painful. But I worked through it. And eventually got to the place of just loving myself, even with all of those flaws and all of those seeming imperfections, and just be me. But it was a journey. These things sometimes happen overnight. Sometimes you have this shift in awareness, this aha moment, and everything shifts. But for some of us, it takes some work, and it's a process of letting go. And I'm going to talk more about that next week. But are you free to be in your own physical self? How about money? That's a big one for a lot of us too, right? Are we free to be in terms of money? Do you have what you need to get what you want to have done? Do you live in that kind of freedom? Or is that a place where you feel your creativity, your life expression is squelched because you don't have enough material resource to do the things you want to do? Can anyone relate to that? A lack of freedom there? How about in your vocation? Ooh, this is another one. For years, I did a lot of different things. You'll hear about one of those today. Over the years, and I wondered what was wrong with me that I couldn't seem to find the thing. I never was really satisfied in the different jobs, and there were always issues and problems in this place and that place, and it never felt like I was in exactly the right place. When was I going to get there and do my thing? The thing I didn't realize was I was always doing my thing. I was always in the right place at the right time, doing exactly what was needed for me. Even now, as I look back, I can see that. In the moment when I was going through it, not so much. But now, as I look back, I go, of course that had to happen. Of course I had to have that job. Of course I needed to go through that situation. It was all preparing me for where I am right now. So are these places maybe where you could stand to have some more freedom, some more enjoyment in your life? Anyone? Did I hit on something for everybody?
Yes.
Hopefully I did. Okay, just a little bit. So here's the thing. You can have one of those aha moments right now. Right? Because all of these things feel very, very, very important. But what if you got a diagnosis? What if something shifted? What if something happened? Right? And you were only going to have 6 months. Now, one of the jobs that I had was working for hospice. One of those experiences. And I was very, very blessed. I say to have had the opportunity to do that work at a fairly young age. I was 26, 27 years old when I started working for hospice. I didn't have any kids at that point, but I was young enough that I could really take some good lessons in from those people without having to have that same experience. You know what I mean? Like, you can know that the stove is hot. You don't have to touch it to figure it out. You watch somebody else burn themselves and say, okay, I'm not going to do that. So here were these people. If you're on hospice, it's because someone has said you have 6 months or less to live. And what do you think people do when they hear a diagnosis like that? There's a a whole range of things, but suddenly that list go backwards. Those things, you start putting them in order right away. Suddenly time, becomes of the essence, and you say to yourself, I'm going to do the things that matter. The thing is that we all kind of have this. Really and truly. This could be for any of us. When I worked for hospice, I was 26 years old. One of my first patients was my age. And I was carrying our first child. And I remember the last time I saw that young man, and he said, have a nice life. You're going to be a great mom. And I said, don't say that. We'll see each other again. And he knew we weren't going to see each other again. He knew that was the last time. We're talking about freedom, people. And this, I believe, is a key to our freedom. Is understanding that our human experience here is limited. Right? Whether you have 6 months, 6 years, or 60 years, there is an expiration date for each and every one of us. It's the thing no one wants to talk about. It's the thing we pretend doesn't exist. But when you can grasp hold of that and understand that it's not punishment, right? It's just how the game is designed. It's just how it is. Robert Fulghum, who wrote the book, I think it's called Everything I Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. Have you heard of that? Has anybody read it? I remember a story, because I've always been fascinated with stories of death and dying for some reason, since I was a kid. And he tells in this book how he was a UU minister, Unitarian Universalist. And he said one of the members of his congregation comes to him one day, and he's just like gray, he's ashen. It's like, oh my God, I just found out I have 6 months to live. I'm dying. And Robert Fulghum kind of made me laugh. He goes, it took this man all of this time to figure out he was dying? Like, how was that a secret? Didn't you know this was going to happen at some point? But we all have that. When I worked for hospice, it was one of my early patients, and one of those people that you learn from everybody. But several hundred patients that died, there are a few that stand out, and this woman stood out because she was about 80 years old, maybe a little bit older, and she got the diagnosis, and now she was dying of cancer or something. And I'm going in as the social worker and getting her background and her history and stuff, and this woman was so angry. She was bitter and hateful to everyone that came into her house. If you were Christian and you were wearing a cross, she really squashed you. She called people names. She was awful. But she was so angry because now, finally, at the age of 80, she was finally getting to live her life. She'd been taking care of everybody else. She was a female in a man's world. She was an engineer back in the day. So I'm telling you, this is 25 years ago, and she was already retired as an engineer. So she went through some stuff in her day, and she took care of her family, and she put everything else, ahead of her own needs and her own wants. And here she is at 80 years old, and how unfair that her journey was cut at this point when she was finally getting it. And when she first started speaking to me about this, I thought, she's got to be kidding, right? You get to be 80 years old and then decide that you're going to live? But what a lesson for me. What a lesson for me as a 20-something-year-old to think, I need to get my stuff in order now. Yeah, because the 26-year-old guy that died was not the youngest. There were kids on hospice. Right? We never know. So you want to live every moment. You want to live every day as if it's your last, and basically travel light.
Was her name Elizabeth Kaiser by any chance?
I don't remember. And I wouldn't say if I did. So, but anyway. Fear doesn't stop death, it stops life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Fear doesn't stop death, it stops life. We can have walls as thick and as high as you want to have them. You can have all the money in the world. You can have the best of everything. You could be fit and fabulous and rich and famous. And, when it's your time, it's your time.
Yep.
It's your time. Nothing is going to take you before, and nothing is going to have you stay here a second after. So just be with that. When we no longer fear death, we no longer fear life. Right? Then you can live fully. And I love what Wayne Dyer says this about freedom. Authentic freedom is actually the freedom of knowing who you are, why you're here, your purpose in life, and where you're going when you leave here. And say it again. Authentic freedom is the freedom of knowing who you are, why you're here, your purpose in life, and where you're going when you leave. And I'm going to break that down a little bit. So number one, who are you? Who are you? Who are we really? There's lots and lots and lots of hints. God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. That's from Genesis. Now, does that mean that we look like God, physically look like God, like a mirror image? No, it means that we have the quality, that we have the ability, that we are created with the creative ability of God in our own lives. Each one of us has the capacity and the ability. In fact, that's what we're called to do, is to create. Your life is your greatest masterpiece. In God, we live, move, and have our being. Now, there's it's in the Bible, right? Everybody says it, but do we really believe it? Do we really act like that? In God, we live, move, and have our being. That means it is all spirit. Every bit of it. The good, the bad, the ugly, the magnificent, the things that you can't even imagine is all God. And we are all part of it. Now here it's said in a few other ways from a few other places. Man, know thyself, then thou shalt know the universe and God. If you know yourself, you know the universe and you know God. That came from Pythagoras. Yes, one of the Greeks, right? Okay, so we go back to ancient Greece. The ancient Egyptians said this: the body is the house of God. Man, know thyself, and thou shalt know the gods. That's what the Egyptians said. In Islam, they say whoever knows himself knows his Lord. Corinthians, don't you realize that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit who lives in you and was given to you by God? And in the science of mind, which is what we teach here, this philosophy that teaches universal truth, universal principle, the highest God and the innermost God is one God. Right? So if some of you heard that for the first time today, Donna said, I am God. We are the face of God. And if you've got that kind of feeling in your gut like I got the first time I heard that kind of idea 30 years ago, that you are God, I thought, are we going to get hit by lightning? Is it okay for me to even walk out the door? Like, how dare you say that you are the stuff of God? That's how I was raised. Right? We don't say things like that. That's blasphemy. That stuff will get you hit by lightning, hit by a car, who knows what. And there goes that fear of death again. Right? So who are we? Who are we? We're God's stuff. We're spirit expressing. And if you think that you're not worthy, keep coming. Keep coming here and we'll show you how to let go of all that stuff, because your playing small doesn't serve anybody. Okay? It's time for us to be letting go of all of that stuff, because we came here with work to do. Do y'all agree?
Yes.
Okay. So why are you here? Why are you here? Why am I here? Why are any of us here? We live in a world of breathtaking material plenty. This has freed hundreds of millions of people from the day-to-day struggles and liberated us to pursue more significant desires like purpose, transcendence, and spiritual fulfillment. That comes from Daniel Pink, who wrote a book called Drive. And Daniel Pink surveyed all these different people to just see, like, what are our universal needs? We think of the Maslow universal, the hierarchy of needs. Pink says we're past, most of us in this country for sure, are past the point of just survival, right? We're blessed. We're blessed. And you may not have the bank account you want to have, but compared to a lot of others, to most of this world, we are very, very blessed, right? But yet, we still live like we're in this constant survival, subsistence mode. And I'm thinking it's maybe a race consciousness thing that has happened to us from people who came out of depression, you know, and there's this idea that we've always just got to be struggling. It's a struggle. Life is tough. Yeah. And then it is, right? Because that's where you get stuck. Even when it's not so bad. Because you're always waiting, when is the next shoe going to drop? Can anyone relate to that? Right? So the bottom line is that we have plenty. We have all that we need. Now it is time for us to turn our attention to other pursuits. It's not just about survival. It's about why you are here. It's about the gifts you came into this world with and what you came here to do with those gifts. So, the meaning of life. Why are you here? To find your gifts. To know what your talents are. To find the things that bring you joy and give it life. The purpose of life is to use those gifts and to give them away. I feel I'm just so blessed to have found this place and to be able to put myself on a spiritual path so I could figure out what my thing is. For years and years, I wandered, I read every book, I went to all these workshops, I spent countless thousands of dollars finding myself. Yeah, there I was all the time, same me. Here I am. But who knew? Who knew? I would have never, 15, 20 years ago, to find me on a stage like this, that was not happening, ever. It wasn't a thought. It's so wild that I'm doing this. It's just amazing. But what I realize is I have some gifts. I have some gifts. I can take really complicated ideas and I can communicate them. I was just marveling that last week on Thursday, I was presenting a class to a group of girls, African American girls from the hood, literally from the hood, and we're speaking spiritual principle. Universal principles, and I can speak to them and they can understand, and we can learn from each other. And I can go to the prison over in Lowell and I can speak to a group of felons, right? And we can laugh and we can cry and we can understand one another, and then I can come here on a Sunday and speak with you fine folks. And somehow I can do that. Now, I'm not sure how that happens, but I know that that's a gift. And I acknowledge that, and I'm very, very grateful for it. Another thing I didn't know was a gift. Like, people look at me and they don't know what I am. When I moved to Ocala, people looked like I had, two heads. And, you ain't from around here, are you? How'd you know? Is she white? Is she black? They were taking bets. They were taking bets, literally. Fort King Middle School, I was a new teacher assistant. I was 23 years old, 22 years old, and they were taking bets. Some of them said, she's mixed. She's half black, she's half white. Now, then finally somebody said, I lived in Tampa for a while, and there was a lot of Latinos there. Are you Latino? Bingo! But I could go and do the workshop with those young girls the other day, and they were just sure I was African American. And then I can go someplace else when I was in college, and they were sure I was whatever they were, and I could just go anywhere and be whatever you want me to be. I'm probably a third of everything. I'm going to do the 23andMe, I'll let you know, but I'm guessing it's about a third Caucasian, a third Native, and then a third African. But I'm not sure, but I'll let you know. But now what seemed like a tremendous burden as I was growing up, I see as a tremendous gift. Because I can flow. I can go with the flow, and I'm okay with being whatever you need me to be. If this is going to make you open up your heart, if it's going to make you open up your mind, if it's going to help us communicate heart to heart, whatever you want to put on me is okay by me. I love you. Love you all. So, the meaning of life, find your gift. Find the thing that brings you joy. Find the thing that makes you smile. Find the thing that opens your heart, and do that. Do more of that, because that's what the world needs. This one now. Where are you going? Where are you going? Do any of us know, really and truly? We can only guess. We can only guess. But some of us can make some good guesses. And some of us have had some experiences. But here's the thing. God is life. God is life. And life, by definition, cannot produce death. Death is but the shifting of the scene, the moving from one place to another, an impatient gesture of the soul as it's seeking greater freedom. Death is just a change. Physical death is just a change of scenery. Because the being that is having this experience of life has always been here and is not going anywhere. I have some of you are thinking that just, how can that be? How can that be? And it really is for all of us to have our own experience of it. You know, to have that experience, it would be like me asking Grady to eat for me, right? Or do my exercise. No one else can do that for you. Only you can experience the divine in the way that is solely yours. But there are commonalities. There are things that we know. Mystics of all the different traditions, whether they're Muslim mystics or Christian mystics or Hindu, they have a very similar experience to people who have had near-death experience and people who've had shamanic experiences, right, with medicines, with plant medicines, that it's a very, very similar experience. And they all come away with this feeling of the oneness of all, and that we are each one of us part of that. And there's no longer a fear of dying, of the death of the physical body, because we come into that awareness and that understanding that we are so much more. And then again, even if that's not true, even if it's not, even if we're making it up, isn't that better than the alternative? Right? Call me a dreamer, call me delusional. I prefer my delusion over the other one. It's all, but it's good, you know? It's really good. I've had one of these experiences of feeling that ultimate surrender. And I tell you, this fear of death is a scam. It's a scam. And not that I want to leave any time sooner, you know, than is my time, but I want to be ready when that time comes. And I want to travel light. And I don't want to I don't want to have heavy burdens. I practice, you know, we practice dying to ourselves. Do y'all know that phrase? It's like releasing the ego, releasing the attachments. It doesn't mean you love life any less. It doesn't mean you're engaged any less. In fact, you're engaged more. You're engaged more because you don't have all the distraction. You get to experience life like as the innocence of a child. Everything is brand new, right? Everything. The future is wide open and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. And you get to do what makes you, what brings you joy, what makes you happy. And maybe it's not happy, it's more than that. It's meaning, it's fulfillment. It's knowing that you are doing the thing that you came here to do. It is time for all of us to wake up. There is no time like the present, because no other time is promised. So if you think, when am I going to start to live my life? Right? I'll start when I lose the 50 pounds. I'll start when I have this much money. I'll start when I have the time. No, start now. Start today. Start this moment. Live the life that you came here to live, because nothing else is promised to you. You got that? So remember, this isn't something new. This is something you know. In the depths of your spirit, in your heart, you know this is true. Right? Remember who you really are. Not the lies you've been told. You're not the things you've done. You're not the things that have happened to you. You are the being that is having this experience of life. That is the truth of who you are. And you are part of something incredibly magnificent. Just look around you. We are all part of this same thing. Look outside around you. We are all part of this one life. Remember who you are. Remember why you're here. Take some time to get to know yourself again. Excavate. Have fun. Discover. Do the things that bring you joy. Remember why you're here. Use your gifts. And remember where you're going. Remember that. Keep it before you. Remember that your time here in human form is limited. But your time here as a being is forever. So look at this life maybe as a project. I came here to get this work done. Right? And I don't think I'm done personally. I think I still have more to go. But if I don't, see you on the other side. See you on the other side. But for now, let's have a good time. Right? I want to see each and every one of us living their best lives. That's what gives me a charge. Right? Is being able to use my gifts and to see other people flourish and grow. There's nothing like it. There's nothing else like it. Know where you're going. And when you know those things, when you know who you are, when you know why you're here, you know where you're going, you will know the truth. And that truth will set you free.